It's me, Amul. I am an MPhil scholar from Nepal Open University. This is a slideshow presentation on the subject critical theory and discourse studies. The essay given to me is the structure, sign, and play in the discourse of the human sciences by Jacques Derrida. So let's discuss. Starts from the biography of Derrida. Jacques Derrida was a French philosopher. He is best known for developing a form of semiotic analysis known as deconstruction. His works have had impact on anthropology, sociology, and literary theories. He had several pseudonyms like Difficult and Dangerous Man, Religiously Corrupt, etc. During his career, Derrida published more than 40 books together with hundreds of essays and public presentation. So let me slightly move forward towards the beginning of this essay. So unless we know or have idea about structuralism by Ferdinand de Saussure, it's very difficult to learn or understand this essay by Jacques Derrida. So at the very beginning, it talks about the topic like event, the event in the timeline of history incorporates changes in structure, structuralism, structure, and in particular, the structurality of the structure, which has hitherto been limited through the process of being assigned a stabilizing center. By the term event here means a point in a history which has successfully established a structure and formulated a center. That's what an event. And the topic it talks about at the second point is the center. The center is at the center of the totality, and yet, since the center does not belong to the totality, is not part of the totality has its center elsewhere. The center is not the center. In the absence of center, everything becomes discursive. So to understand the concepts of centrality, we can just look at the very pictures given at the site. So you can see that the center is not at the center, but it is out there. There are multiple centers. And to understand the concept of center, I would like to give an example. Like if I'm living in the right regions, for me, 35 degree to 40 degrees Celsius perhaps is the hottest climate there. But if I live in the hilly regions, perhaps 18 to 22 degrees Celsius is the hottest climate there. If I live in the Himalayan regions, perhaps 6 to 8 degrees Celsius is the hottest there. So now what is the very meaning of the hottest climatic situation? It is not the same in all cases. So there is no any, the ultimate truth here means there is no any structure. The structure of the center is having a lot of dynamics. It's not constant in any way. So there is no center, but there is center out there. So now let's move to the next figure. I mean, the slides given here, what I have mentioned, like, and again, on the basis of what we call the center, repetition, substitution, transformation, permutation are always taken from a history of meaning. That is, in a word, a history whose origin may always be reawakened or whose end may always be anticipated in the form of presence. So to understand the concept given here is, I have given a figure. In the figure, there are multiple kids standing in a row. The first kid, she seems that she's going to share something with the second one. I have seen this sort of video in Facebook's once, the man standing at the first row delivers one sentence and it is being observed and being re-spoken to the backstanders and the meaning, I mean, the sentence is being changed as it goes from one hand to another hand. And the one who stands at the last row, and the, you know, the reflection that he gets or she gets ultimately, I mean, becomes the different than, totally different than the words spoken by the first man who is standing in the very beginning at the first position in the row. It means to say that the meaning of a word is not the same all the time. It is dynamic, it is changing. That's why Montaigne says we need to interpret the interpretations more than to interpret the things. So it can also be said in another way, like the, you know, the two terms, you know, Derrida used, like differ and defer. Differ means not alike, and defer means to continue. It means the word and its meaning of a word may not, you know, same and constant forever. It gets changed as per time. This is how discourse starts to happen, and things become discursed. So this is the idea we can generate from this second, I mean, the second slide. And if you go to the third one, it says about, it gives about the examples of the centrality of Derrida. So the theocentric world legitimized God at the center, whereas since the rise of anthropocentrism, the same theism is philosophized as the human at the center, stating that paying service to human is a religion. So it is called in Nepal like Manu Shiva and Dharma. If you go back to the date before 14th, you know, century, then the world is the theocentric, and Renaissance after 15th and 16th centuries after, the world become humanistic. I mean, everything is seen from the ways of, I mean, from the eyes of human. A human is at the center, we can say. So the world was theocentric before 14, and it's human-centric after 14. So center is moving, it is not constant, that's what I mean. The meaning of romance in the very beginning was love in between human and nature, and in the period of romanticism, but by the time meaning transformed and is meant as love between human. Yes, true. So in romanticism, the meaning of romance means in between human and nature. Later it became romance. Romance means it means the love in between the people. So it's changing. So the centrality of historicism revolves around the anarchism by Rana rulers before 1951 and came to the royals and again transformed into a multi-party system and now to federal government. The center is out there or the center is not at the center. It means going back to the history of Nepal, before 1951 there was Rana system, Rana ruling systems, and 2046 there was thereafter the royal monarchical systems. 2046 launched multi-party systems, and now it's a federal governance. So the change is even in there in political situations. So the truth or the center is not fixed. It is always moving. So this can perhaps a good example for it. So if you go to this slide, I mean the next slide, we can talk about the concepts of signified and signified. This is the idea given by Ferdinand de Saussure. So de Saussure says language is simply a sign system. So that's why what he says that a signified without signified is noise, a signified without a signifier is impossible. It means to say that there is a watertight relationship between signified and signified. So look at the example given in the very beginning, like the sign of an apple. If the sign is apple, the word apple is a signifier, and the very picture of apple that forms in our brain is the signified. So there must be one-to-one relationship between signified and signified to be a language, to be a sign. This is which is attacked by Derrida, and Derrida doesn't believe on this thing. He says that there is arbitrariness of schema made in the brain. So look at the example given here, like if somebody pronounces water, then the one who observes that sound, I mean those who listen to it, so they may have different sort of perception on water. They may create a figure of droplets of water. Some may have the figure of lake. Some people may think about it's H2O. Some people have figure of glass of water, some may think about swimming pool, and some may think about rain. So ultimately, this figure wants to say that there can be multiple signified or indefinite signified. So there is no any one-to-one relationship. Signified for Saussure is only in having expression and signified as concept. But Derrida doesn't believe on this thing. There is no any watertight relationship. For Noam Chomsky, as far as he's concerned, he says that there are two structures. One is the surface structure, another is the deep structure. And surface structure is the spoken word, and deep structure is invisible word inferred, according to him. So moving towards the next slide is about Nietzsche, Freud, and Heidegger. Derrida depicts Nietzsche, Freud, and Heidegger as the destroyer of metaphysics. Nietzsche questioned the power of representation and concepts to really convey the truth. So what really the truth is, the question of Nietzsche. So let's talk about the concept of geocentric world and versus heliocentric world. If you go back to history, before Galileo, then people believe that everything is geocentric. It means to say even the sun revolves around the earth. But after the inventions of telescopes by Galileo, he found the truth that it is not the sun that revolves around the earth, but this is the earth which revolves around the sun. So no truth is an ultimate truth. This is what Nietzsche formulated the theory. And Freud also challenged the idea that mind was limited to consciousness. Sigmund Freud said that there are three levels of consciousness. One is unconscious, subconscious, and the next one is, the last one is conscious. So this is what the challenge put forward by Freud. And Heidegger criticized the idea of being a presence. If you go to the theory of Heidegger, then it particularly focuses on being. Being, the word Tom is made up of two words. Be means happen, and ing means going on. So something is happening that is still taking place. This is what he believes. So our presence is never an ending process. It goes on. So these are what the challenging ideas and theories that is propounded by these three greatest theorists of the world. But at the same time, Derrida attacked on these three people, stating that these people propounding the theory wants to establish their own theory as an ultimate truth, which can again be broken or shaken by the next theorist. So it's even not an ultimate truth. This is what Derrida says about these three people. So moving towards another slide about Levi-Strauss' binary opposition, he talks about nature and culture. So far as nature and culture, what he says, culture is a man-made constructs with man himself as the mediator, nature as a totality. Again, Derrida attacks on the concepts of Levi-Strauss. What he says that such kind of opposition never exists. Rather, the meaning in integrations can be solved. Like example, day is equally important to night. We can differentiate night as bad and days as good as the reciprocal. We cannot differentiate in such a way. We can also interpret like this: if I have to define day, then I have to define night. If I have to define the white, then I have to define the black. Derrida doesn't believe on this kind of binary opposition. Rather, he says that we should have the reciprocality, the harmony. And why he makes an objection on binary opposition, for the reason that it creates a hierarchy, which he doesn't like. So moving towards now the last slide perhaps is given here is about bricolage and bricolier. Bricolage is a way of assembling, something from a mess to create a new one. And the bricolier is the person who does that. So in terms of Levi-Strauss, Meat is almost like the bricoles. The